Perfectionism literally keeps people stuck. It keeps them not feeling good enough. It stops them from even taking action. It causes a lot different versions of self-sabotage. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to remove the block of perfectionism. I'm going to show you what part of your childhood this may have come from. And I'm going to show you how to unleash a new part of yourself so that you're able to embody a completely new you. Welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be showing you how to let go of one of the biggest blocks people have, which is perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is a pattern that is in place to keep our ego safe. Think about it. There's like this little jailhouse around us that is known as our familiar comfort zone. It's our familiar comfort zone that we will fight and do anything we can to stay inside of comfort emotions. Now, with perfectionism, the thing with perfectionism is what it does is it keeps us in a box of these internal standards that we have set upon ourselves that has said, in order for me to be loved or received, in order for something to be good enough, it has to be perfect. It's on this huge pedestal, and it is this thing that I must be in order for me to be considered good enough. So in actuality, what we do with perfectionism is we set the bar so high that it's almost impossible to reach. And it's in place, though, because there's some form of familiar emotions that are there that keep us inside of that box. Now, the key to transforming this, the key to everything I've used with this process is understanding the relation that it has to worthiness, to how you feel, because this is the thing with the perfectionism that's tricky is it's on the inside, we may feel not good enough. So on the outside, we set the bar so high that I have to do this, the results that I get in my life have to be of this quality up here. And then I can feel good enough. Then I can feel happy. But the key is knowing that that gap, that high standard we've set, is to keep us feeling not worthy. It keeps us not feeling good enough. And it puts our source of happiness and attainment outside of ourselves. Because then it's relying on other people to tell us that we're good enough, to tell us that it's okay. And I know that in my life, when I started making YouTube videos back in 2017, in February when I started making daily videos, before that, I had this perfectionist mentality that in order for me to put a video out on YouTube, it had to be perfect. I had to know the editing. I had to do all this stuff. And what held me back is this long list of things that I had to learn before I could even make a video. So for like a year or two, I held myself back because I did not know how to edit. I did not know exactly, I didn't think I was good enough to be on camera. And I then was watching this guy named Ralph Smart, some of you may know him, and he was making videos, and I remember watching his videos and being like, oh, I have my own perspective on this. I should share my own perspective. But I was like, I can't just make videos where I'm talking to the camera like this. I need to have some crazy editing that comes up here. I need to have like text that comes over here. I need to have these B-roll transitions, or people aren't gonna wanna watch it. So because I didn't know how to do that, it just held me back. It held me back because I literally did not think I was good enough or that the videos would be good enough. But that held me back for 2 or 3 years. I imagine sometimes, what if I would have got on YouTube back in like 2015? Who knows? But I mean, I committed to daily videos in 2017 and my whole life transformed. But the key to this process for me is I had to redefine what it meant to be perfect. I had to also realize that being perfect and perfectionism is a mentality that is no longer serving me. And I had to then start, that's one of the main things, by the way, just start. Because when you start coming up to your edge. You start realizing how uncomfortable you might feel when you're starting something and you have all this long checklist of things that might be keeping you from actually attaining whatever that is. Now let's look at where perfectionism may have come from, because that will help us reframe it. So perfectionism, many times, what I've learned from either the people that I've worked with or from myself is that many people that have perfectionist mentality, they grew up in childhood and they had parents that were either really strict or very criticizing or gaslighted them, or they just felt like they weren't good enough. Nothing they did was good enough. There was like maybe what happened is, for example, my parents divorced when I was 5 years old. A very common thing that can happen with kids that have parents that are divorced is they may decide that because their parents broke up, well, maybe mom broke up with dad or dad broke up with mom because they weren't perfect. I don't want mom or dad to leave me, so I'm going to be perfect. And I need to never make a mistake. I need to make sure that everything I do is top notch. I need to get straight A's. Maybe one of your parents didn't accept you or give you love unless you got straight A's. I remember I worked with this lady once who had a kid, and her kid was like 3 or 4 years old. And she told her kid, and this was mind-blowing to me. This is before my awakening, really, but I was like shocked that she did this. She had this kid, and her daughter was drawing some type of artwork, and she literally picked up the piece of artwork and ripped it up and threw it away because she said it wasn't good enough because she wasn't coloring in the lines. So like she's priming her daughter to color in the lines because everyone knows that's the correct way to do it. But imagine what that's going to do to her psyche. How she's going to think like, oh, I just got that ripped apart and thrown away. This is going to cause some form, like I'm not good enough. What I'm doing is not good enough. I need to be perfect to receive love. I was watching this other show. It's called Impractical Jokers. You guys ever seen this show? It's a funny show where it's about like these 4 dudes that are like pranking. They're telling each other to do these crazy things outside of their comfort zone. And in one of these challenges, they had to go and for this guy's punishment for not doing certain things, I think his name was Quinn, he had to go through and mark, there's all these kids in this art class with their parents. He had to go and draw a big red X over all their artwork. Just one by one. And these kids are like, what are you doing? And he's just doing this X, not really saying anything. And part of it was funny, but part of it was like, I wonder if that's going to affect their meaning about what they give to themselves. Because the truth is, we're always making meaning based on what things mean and how we relate to the world. And perfectionist has some meaning in the past where we had to please our parents. A lot of people pleasers are perfectionists. A lot of people pleasers are perfectionists or in their head too, instead of in their body, in their heart. And what perfectionists are afraid to do is expand their comfort zone. That's why perfectionism in place. That's why the standard is set so high. But the questions I'd like to ask to you for this, because the transformation is right here. I'm going to share with you exactly how you can transform this. Because what's really happening is there's a version of you that might have your heart activated at a certain level. When you're passionate about what you do, your energy field literally expands. Now, as a perfectionism, we're like closing off of our light. We're closing off like how much light we can shine because we're afraid that the unknown, something will happen. And what we're really afraid of is we're afraid that a parent or someone's going to come into our life to say, you're not good enough. You're not enough. I don't like what you did. And then that gaslighting makes us feel like I can't be the most expressive me. I remember one time my ex-stepmom, when I first actually met her, my dad brought her in and my brother and I were getting to know her. She had the cupboard organized a certain way. And I wanted to do something really nice for her because I was kind of a people pleaser already at like 7 or 8 years old. I go into this cupboard and I reorganize all these cans. I put like cans over here and I made it look a certain way and it was like easy to look at. And then I grabbed her, I go, oh, hey, look at these cans that I did. And she looked at it and she freaked out because she had it in a certain way. It was a certain alphabetical order or something. I had this good gesture. I was doing this nice thing and then she blew up. And I remember later on, like when I saw my mom, I was like explaining this. And I remember that everyone was laughing about it because it seemed so ridiculous. But it's like, here's this 7, 8-year-old kid that's doing this, and then someone blows up, and it's like, oh my God, I have to redo all this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? It wasn't perfect. And what is perfect even? Because the funny thing with my ex-stepmom is it was never good enough no matter what we did. We could do something, and we could do it a certain way, and whatever way we did it was wrong, and it was supposed to be done the opposite way. Even if we did the opposite way that she said, it was like there just always had to be a problem and conflict. So the challenge with this is that then in our daily lives, we may think that it's never good enough. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. But what we need to do is become aware of this pattern and then make a new choice about who we are. to look at it in this new way, to question it. And the real root of this is looking at what is the standard? How would I know that what I'm doing is good enough? How would you know? How would you know that your XYZ standard and you are good enough? How would you know you are good enough? Who sets that standard? And what if we defined what it meant to be perfect right now? Because everyone has a different definition of what that is. For some people, it's this very specific thing, and it's in this little box, and it's like if I do X, Y, Z, like all this stuff, then I'm perfect. For some people, it might be a little bit less. And then some people are just okay with where they are. Now, the key to this is, are we more focused on the outcome, or are we focused on the process? What if perfectionism could be reframed, and instead of it being the end result of it being perfect, there was no end result, because everything is always changing. Everything is fluid. Everything is always in a state of progressing, in a state of expansion. So it's like, I need to make the perfect video when I was first starting out in 2017, but it's like, what if every video I made, I got better? So it was a process. It wasn't about one video. It was about this larger macro vision. And it was about giving myself permission to express myself, not valuing. Sometimes what happens is we value other people's things, and it's a means to an end. We value other people's validation and support, other people's approval. And because of that, it's like I am doing something to get that validation and approval instead of being present and have it be an end of itself. An end of itself. It is an end of itself for me to make this video right now, regardless of what the results are. And because of that, I'm more present. And the challenge with a lot of perfectionism is they think there's an end result. There's not. It's a constant state of progression. So it's okay. And messing up is a part of the process. Messing up's a good thing. Messing up helps you become aware of what you could do differently. You can be grateful for it and realize that it does not reflect that you're unworthy, you're not good enough. You can start not internalizing these things. When we internalize and think that we must be perfect to be loved, we set such a high standard for ourselves, it's hard to maintain. But instead what we could do is we can begin to let go of that old meaning, realizing it was our inner child that said it. And what we can then do is we can then let it go and say, how do I know I'm good enough? I'm present to the moment. How do I know? And that's even still kind of like an end result. How do I know I'm good enough? It's like a realization that you are enough the way you are right now. People feel what you feel. And if you feel like you're not perfect, then they're going to feel that from you. If you feel like you're not good enough, they're going to feel that from you. Outer reality is simply responding to the vibration, the energy that we are putting out. And for me not to be a perfectionist, what I had to do is I had to say, screw it. It takes courage. That's what I'd like you to tap into, is courage. Have the courage to put yourself out there. Have the courage to believe in yourself and realize that as you do, your outer reality will begin to change. I did that in 2017 and my whole life has changed. I have this cool whiteboard right here. I could write whatever I want in it. I got many pages I can write on. I'm abundant now. Why? Because I had the courage to step into this. And you could do the same thing. You could also have a whiteboard. You could also have all these papers and draw stick figures on it. Okay? You could do whatever you want to do, but the thing that you have to become aware of is that the meaning you gave when you were a kid doesn't need to be on autopilot now. You can let it go. And you let it go by becoming aware of it. You become aware of it, and then you make the choice to let it go because you see it's not serving you. Prior, you thought it was serving you. And that's what also creates a lot of imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, procrastination. Many perfectionists will then procrastinate. So one thing that I did is I began to give myself permission to make videos, permission to mess up. I would recommend you go do something that actually does have your mess up mentality. It's not up to your standards, and just see how you feel. Because when you realize you don't have to maintain that standard, it's like, it's not necessarily lowering your standards, it's raising your worthiness. You're feeling more worthy, and then you're going to have more permission to be more loose and permission to be more your authentic self. But activate the courage inside of yourself. There's courage inside of you to step into this and to know that you are enough. And that will help you expand your comfort zone. Now, something else that we're going to be doing, if you haven't heard yet, is the Shift Experience live event is May 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's live here in Austin, Texas, and it's limited to only 80 people in person. So if you want to join, go to theshiftexperience.com. You'll see if there's still spots available, if the option to join is there. And if you can't join live, there's also virtual. It's a 3-day transformational experience. I'm bringing in people like Victor Odo, my girlfriend Heather, also AKA Activation Vibration. There's Doug, my shadow work coach, and there's other speakers I'm going to be bringing in. But we're going to be going through a process of embodying our purpose and this highest self version. So if you feel like you want to embody your purpose and remove the blocks, the perfectionism, self-sabotage, all these things, then go ahead and go to theshiftexperience.com and realize that when you do that, it's going to change so much of your life when you begin to let go of all of these blocks, which are just trying to keep you safe and keep you in that comfort zone. So with that being said, if you want to learn how to remove these blocks as well, and what you can do to really feel 100% worthy, whole, and complete. I have a meditation, like activation thing you do. It's got over 1 million views, and it's helped so many people release the stored emotion that I'm talking about here. Go ahead and click this video right here, listen to this video, and watch how it changes your life.
This video, I'm going to be sharing with you the most powerful meditation that you can do for feeling 100% whole, complete, and worthy. By the end of this video, you are going to feel like a completely new person.